Javon Hadley, I would give him my house, my car. I would give him probably one of my kids. At this point, I would give him anything to stay in Louisville for another year. I know he doesn't have another year of eligibility, but like that's one of those performances where Javon Hadley should never have to buy a drink in the city of Louisville ever again.
I want y'all to put the word out that we back up.
We back.
We back, baby. Louisville basketball is back. Scream it from the mountaintops. Louisville basketball is back. Jacob Lane joins me, your host of the most, Press Meyer, as we jump into another exciting edition of the Starting 502 podcast. I mean, Jacob, I cannot think of a better stretch of basketball post-COVID for Louisville basketball. You think that's fair to say?
Yeah, you're really testing my memory right now. I think there was like maybe one good stretch after post-COVID, and if I'm not mistaken, it was fairly good, but nothing like this. And so quickly and against really good basketball teams, you know,
back to back, like no off games, no time off, just
right.
reeling
5 wins
off
in a row.
in a 10-day stretch, really. North Carolina at Virginia, which you hadn't done since like before Clinton was in office, and just an absolute beatdown. Okay, maybe beatdown's a little bit strong, but a thorough
it felt like
ass beating of Clemson.
Yeah.
At times, it felt like it, for sure. So we're going to dive into the Clemson win just a little bit. Jacob, initial thoughts from the dub.
Javon Hadley, I would give him my house, my car. I would give him probably one of my kids. At this point, I would give him anything to stay in Louisville for another year. I know he doesn't have another year of eligibility, but like that's one of those performances where Javon Hadley should never have to buy a drink in the city of Louisville ever again. I mean, it was incredible to watch. This was a game against a very smart Clemson team that brought back two of their best players from last year in Chase Hunter and Ian Shefflin. And I really thought that they were going to be able to kind of have stretches where they kind of put their foot on the gas on Louisville, and they never really did. I mean, Louisville once again came out and just dominated from start to finish. And with this one, you know, one of the things I talked about the other day on the radio when I was hosting Mike's show was that this Louisville basketball team, the thing that blows me away the most is that when things aren't going the way that you want them to with certain players, right? Like when a guy like Terrence Edwards hits that first three to start the game, but then can't literally hit another shot until much later. Like when that's happening and, you know, you have Noah Waterman going in and out of foul trouble, when you have these big kind of foundational pieces on your team that are struggling to do what they do best and you still find ways to win, it speaks volumes to how well coached you are, how strong your system is, and how strong your culture is. And for this game, knowing that Terrence Edwards was struggling to get going, you know, Chucky Hepburn was even kind of struggling to get going. Javon Hadley saw that, hit a couple of threes early, and then it was like the rim became the ocean and everything was open. And at one point he was, I think, 8 for 8. And you kept saying like that he's not going to continue to be able to do this over and over again, like to be able to put back down whoever was guarding him and going to the post. But they just kept going to it over and over again, one-on-one ISOs. And he executed time and time again. You know, Chucky got going offensively and was able to start throwing some assists and the lobs to James Scott. I mean, Louisville put their foot down and played basketball like they were the better team. And I thought that walking away, that's the takeaway, is that Louisville was the better team. And I think Louisville has proven to be, I mean, really the second best team in the ACC at this point, based off of how Duke is just chewing up opponents and spitting them out. And Louisville played with them for every bit of that game until the wheels just kind of fell off.
Yeah. I mean, going back to that really quickly, we'll get into Duke's dismantling of Pitt on Tuesday night. Going back to that, after that game, I was frustrated because I felt like that was one that Louisville let slip away. Louisville was winning at halftime. They were winning by 7, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that range, right? Like a couple of possession lead. And then it seemed like there were no adjustments made in the second half. They tried to go back to the same well in the second half, and they couldn't make adjustments. And that was kind of my takeaway, was like, you know, maybe Pat Kelsey just got or the coaching staff just kind of got out coached that night. Like maybe Duke was just, you know, they just ultimately just showed that they were the more well-rounded team. But also my concern was just that they didn't know how to utilize what they had. At that point, they're right on the heels of losing maybe their best player. And so they're trying to adjust on the fly and try to figure out what that looks like. And so post Duke, I wasn't super hopeful for the rest of the season, right? Like, and I think we even talked about like, yeah, maybe finishing 500 could be a good start, right? Like, yeah, they look good, but then players got hurt. Excuse. That has not happened. Real wake up call moment was the EKU game because it didn't seem like there was a ton of upward mobility, if you will, and they weren't taking a huge upward trajectory.
Right.
But once they hit that EKU game, I think they kind of went back to the drawing board, and you've seen a really concerted effort on the defensive end. And I think that defense and kind of being the aggressor on both ends of the court has really
Yeah.
led to that success. So, but I think it kind of goes back to that Duke game, right? Like that's, at this point, they're the clear cut best team in the conference. But I think that Louisville was right there. I think that, they had an opportunity to steal one there. But ultimately, I think that they learned from that. And that's the most important thing going forward. And then now you get into this stretch of North Carolina, Virginia, and Clemson, three top tier teams in the ACC. I'd say Virginia is probably, I don't know, pick a number 7 to 12, somewhere in there, right? Maybe. I don't know. Jake
Maybe. I don't
speculated
know.
that they could still be a tournament team.
No way.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure
No
about
way.
that at
I
this
think
point.
they go to play Cal this weekend at 11:30 on Saturday night. Or maybe sorry, not Saturday night. That game I think is tonight. Actually,
Yeah, 11
they
o'clock.
they might win that game, but it's gonna be ugly. Like they are
Mhm.
in the bottom 4 of this conference, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think Virginia's any good. Maybe I'm missing something, but yeah, I don't think Virginia's. They're just they have a lot of veterans on their team, like guys that have played in that system for a long time, like the Elijah
Hmm.
Saunders and the Tane Murrays of the world. I've openly said that I just don't think their roster is very good. I
Yeah.
could be proven wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll go to the
Yeah.
tournament, but I
I don't
no,
think
I
they're
don't see it.
bottom 4, but I don't think they're a tournament team either. But either way, the fact that what you've accomplished over these, especially the last 3 games, I know it's a 5-game winning streak, but really over the course of the last 3 games has been fantastic. And that kind of leads me to my 3 big things. So we're going to try to keep it short and sweet. 3 big things. This is the Clemson edition, non-Javon Hadley edition. I had to throw that
Okay,
in there because
I
I
like
think
it.
Javon Hadley, obvious story, right? So number 1, this may have been Louisville's best defensive game of the season. And while there were stretches where Clemson had small runs, things were intense on the defensive end. They limited Ian Shefflin from kind of taking over the game. They limited Chase Hunter from taking over. Like we said before the game, they were going to get theirs, but ultimately it's about playing good team defense. Pat Kelsey's kind of the antithesis of Rick Pitino, where he doesn't necessarily shut down the best player. He just plays solid team defense that worked out in the end. Number 2, speaking of which, how about Fat Edwards, right? 2 for 11 from the field, 5 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist in 36 minutes. When you look at that box score, what do you think about Fat Edwards? He played a terrible game. That is absolutely not the case. He played fantastic lockdown defense. He was so impactful. He warranted every minute of those 36 minutes. It felt like Edwards was kind of the missing piece on this defense, and Louisville had a lot of excellent individual defenders, right? Chucky Hepburn, obviously being a big one, James Scott, Javon Hadley, Kadir Traore, but Fat Edwards feels like he was kind of the missing piece on this defense, and he's taken an onus upon himself to use his length, his athleticism, and just overall desire to just outplay and outwit other players. And I think that's taken Louisville's defense to the next level. I mean, I think that he's not gonna get any credit for the type of defensive game that he played last night, and he deserves all the credit in the world because it was game changingly good defense. He gets mismatches down low in the post, and he's able to force a 7-foot big man to miss a shot. He's able to, poke balls free where he doesn't necessarily get counted as a steal, but leads to a fast break, or jumping passing lanes, playing lockdown defense. I think it's been fantastic. Number 3, how about Louisville just showing that it's finding ways to win no matter how they shoot? 28-29% from beyond the 3-point line
Yeah,
against Clemson. Rain Smith only makes 1 3. Did not matter one bit. From start to finish, there were a couple stretches where Clemson kind of pushed it out a little bit. But I would say, they led for 30 minutes of the game. And I would say for, probably 34, 35 minutes, they were the clear cut better team on the floor against a Clemson team that I would say, unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong, they're an NCAA tournament team, right? A team that went to the Elite Eight last year. Absolutely fantastic win, huge resume booster, three big things. Any thoughts on that or any other, other thoughts as we're kind of looking back?
No, I mean, I thought, it was great to see that Terrence Edwards once again found ways to impact winning when his shot wasn't falling. I thought against Virginia, you saw the same thing, and it was nice to see him consistently kind of carry that over game to game, because there's going to be times in the tournament where his shot's not falling and he can't check out. You need him to be great on one end or both, and for him to be able to lock in defensively was fantastic. I think the other thing that you have to kind of point out when you look at this team is the passing of Chucky Hepburn. It is the best passing as a point guard that Louisville has had since Peyton Siva. It's not even close. He is so good at just swinging the ball, finding one more pass, getting into the lane, and knowing where the open shooter is going to be or where that lob is to James Scott. I mean, he told me over the offseason, I did an interview series with him, and he told me that James Scott is the best lob threat that he's ever had. And you're seeing that coming to fruition in real time. And he is struggling offensively the last couple of games. You saw the post from Coach Cloman after the game where Chucky was back in the gym. Said he got to put some arc on that bitch, which I thought was hilarious. Great line for the season, and I'm hoping to see that next game. But Chucky is a relentless warrior who is really leading this team by example, and you see that and saw that this game. And then finally, man, you can't talk about this win without giving a couple of minutes specifically to Javon Hadley. I mean, think about this day and age in college basketball press. Like, guys are scoring, not often are guys scoring in the 30s and 40s. It's happening more often than it did years ago, but typically college basketball, you see a very spread out box score with guys with no more than 25, 20 points. And when they do have big games, typically you can go and you can check that 3-point field goal box and you can say, okay, he hit 5 or 6 threes. Like, that really is what spurred that night on. And in this one, Javon Hadley shot 3 for 3. That was it. 3 threes. I think that was his career high. If I'm not mistaken, I heard them say on the broadcast. It showed me, one, like, he's not afraid to shoot threes. We saw that last game. He had a huge 3 against Virginia that Louisville absolutely needed. And in this game, he stepped into it confidently early, hit that second one, and then just continued to kind of keep that rhythm. But really in this game, his ability to know, okay, I'm not the first option. I'm option typically 2 or 3. I need to slow down here. I need to let, Terrence Edwards go. I need to let Rain Smith go. I need to let Chucky Hepburn go. I need to let X, Y, and Z happen. In this game, he saw it. It was like extremely clear to him that he could own this game, that this was his game. His matchup was absolutely prime for him to dominate. They continued to put guys on him that he was bigger than, stronger than. And what did he do? He took 3 or 4 dribbles in, turned around, backed that thing up, man. It went right inside and scored, got fouled. He had countless and ones. I mean, it was a traditional college basketball type of performance. And for him to finish with the stat line that he did, press with 10 for 12 shooting from the field, 9 of 11 from the free throw line, 10 rebounds to go with that. He did have 3 turnovers, but just to the way that he was rebounding, those series late when he would miss a shot and get his own rebound, put it up, score, get fouled. I mean, it was just a timeless, retro KFC Yum Center type of performance. And that can be traced to the crowd, which, again, you cannot talk about this game, the last couple of home games, without talking about that freaking crowd. Like, you were there. Give me, like, did it feel like old times?
A little bit. I think that fans deserve all the credit in the world for finding a way to make it out to the game. Shout out to Mark Keeber as well for kind of helping a number of fans.
Is that what you just said?
Is that on his name?
No, Rick Keever. You're close though.
Rick Keever. I'm sorry.
You're close. I was like, wait, did I hear that right? Yeah.
I'm notoriously bad with names, John. No, but it's
yeah, right.
there's a great, it was a great gesture for him once again to be helping fans out, getting into the game, and I think it also helped a little bit. Kids are out of school, parents are like, "Get me the hell out of here. Let's get
Yeah.
have something for
Oh
them to
my
do."
gosh, dude.
There were quite a few kids, but I think it was sleepy snow day vibes coming in, right? Like people trickled in really late, like to the point where Megan was like, "All right, can they stop walking down now?" Like it was like after the second TV timeout, there's still people matriculating in. But once everybody was settled in, and once the basketball started getting really good, like I think after Clemson pushed it ahead, and then Louisville made a charge towards the end of the first half, it was freaking on. Like
Yeah.
the crowd was fantastic.
Yeah,
Starting
man.
out, it wasn't like one of those where it felt like everybody hit O'Shea's or something before and then popped on over and it was lively in there. Like it was more of a okay. It kind of feels like everybody's been sitting in the house cooped up a little bit, and this is the first time I'm wearing shoes that aren't slippers for the last
Yeah.
5 days, right? So
Pants that aren't sweatpants. Right.
pants,
Exactly.
right.
You
So
probably wore sweatpants though, didn't you? Shit, man,
no,
that
no,
wouldn't change for anyone. I'm coming out here in my sweatpants, y'all. You're gonna have to deal with it.
no. We were very prepared gear wise. I even brought I didn't know how bad the snow was going to be down there, so I brought my little off trail hiking shoes just in case. But no,
Okay.
it wasn't
I
that bad.
see. Being
Yeah,
prepared for the elements of Louisville,
we were
Kentucky. Like
we were ready to
what?
go. We were ready to
Yeah.
roll. Well,
I hate
yeah,
this so much. I hate it so much. I just like snow is great. I love that every once in a while we can experience a wonderland. But like being trapped in the house sucks.
mhm,
It's terrible. I hate it so much.
yeah. I'm the same.
I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I got to get out of
No,
here.
we were on a work call today, and there's like 150 people on this call, and somebody asked to hear about a win for today, and this lady just chimes in, just from the bottom of her heart, just goes, "I just feel like the biggest win of the day was that I've had the kids in the house for 3 straight weeks, and I have not killed any of them." And it just goes back on mute. I was like, "That's fantastic."
I mean,
And
look, at this point, they've been home for 21 plus days
hmm
in Oldham County. You and I both have kids in Oldham County schools. They've been out
hmm
since December 23rd. No, December
I feel like it's
20th.
like the 19th or the 20th, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
19th or 20th. Yeah, they've been out for that long and they've been home almost every day, right?
since
They're
then.
going to miss the whole week of school. I'm going crazy. Like the Louisville win last night was my escape to just like euphoria, like resort
Mhm.
vacation mentally for just a few hours
Yeah,
watching them. It was
maybe
wonderful.
that's the good luck charm. Okay, so like I don't know, I've had this like weird my relearning how to love and trust Louisville basketball has been a journey.
It is.
And part of it is the superstitions coming back. I've just been completely stitious for the last
Mm-hmm.
2+ years. And so there's like a random thing. What was it? Oh, for the bowl game. For the bowl game, I have my fancy lights outside that I can change the colors to whatever. So like Christmas, I got Christmas lights,
Sure.
and for St. Patrick's Day, I have green lights, whatever. Put out my bright red lights for Christmas or for the bowl game. Louisville won. I was like, we got to keep it up for the basketball game. Louisville won basketball game, and then it's
Yeah.
just perpetuated itself
Yeah.
over and over. And last night I was like, I got to change it. I'm tired of like looking like
No,
I'm a
you
what's that
can't.
called? No, what's it called where prostitutes go? A
Oh,
brothel.
the green
Uh,
light district, and that
yeah,
was called. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Red light district. Yeah,
Red light
that's
district.
kind of what it looked like kind of like
Yeah.
demonic a little bit. No, so I changed it, and Louisville still won. So I
Oh, okay.
think,
Okay.
yeah. So I think that perhaps it's all the kids being at home. When the kids go back, it's just going to be ruined. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Maybe
That
I don't
could
know.
be it. We might have to have a real conversation about it. What I'm willing to sacrifice for those wins if it's kids staying home. Just gonna throw that
We'll see
out
you
there,
next
man.
season.
Yeah, tournament, and I'm good. I'll pass now. Send the kids back to school. But no,
Yeah.
it was great to see the fans get out there. And to be honest with you, again, we're in Oldham County, so it's a little different for us than like some of the neighborhoods in the south and east ends of Louisville and
Mhm.
even places in downtown. But the snowplows came through, great, cleared the roads out, but completely trapped every driveway. I mean, there's no
Yep.
getting out of my street and or out of
Yep.
my driveway. It took us almost 2 hours to shovel one car just to be able to get out of the driveway, to be able to have a car to get, where we needed to get if we
Dude, you
needed to
must
go somewhere.
you must suck at
It's
shoveling.
no, man. Well, I don't have the proper shovel.
What are
I'm
you
out
using?
here
Like
using
a
like a digger
yeah,
shovel. I don't have a
yeah.
snow
That's what
shovels, man.
we use.
I'm
The
not
same
built for
thing.
this.
Yeah. So Jake and I have people listen last podcast. We talked about this exact same thing. Like I don't want a freaking shovel. Are you
No,
kidding me?
no,
No,
I don't live in
it's
Buffalo,
awful.
man.
It's awful.
Yeah,
It's the
it's
worst.
terrible.
And to make it even worse, so a lot of people that have moved in my neighborhood, they're from Cleveland, Ohio. There's been like this kind of not mass exodus, but a lot of people have moved down here for business, and so they know how to deal with snow. And so
Sure.
I come out to my driveway just absolutely just covered in snow, like my dogs can barely see above it, and my neighbor's driveways are immaculate, just
Yeah.
pure sheet of concrete. Like, how the hell did you do that?
You got a
It's like
snowblower?
6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, they have all the
Yeah. See,
materials and
that's
stuff.
the
And I'm out there with like my gardening shovel. I don't know if you saw Megan's Instagram story tonight, making fun of me, but yeah, they came across. It was great. Plowed everything, but plowed it right into our driveway. So of course Megan's little
yeah.
sedan, no
Right. It's
shot.
not
That's
getting
getting
there.
over
Right.
there. No.
Same. The Corolla's
So
not coming out of the garage anytime soon. That thing is
yep.
in there for good for a little while.
So my
But
neck, my back, my crack, all of it
yeah,
is it's
yeah,
sore.
all of it like
It's
that. It's a lot. But we're fighting through. We're gonna get more this weekend. It sounds like. So it seems like I'm gonna be here for a while. So I got to
mhm.
learn to love it. But what I've learned during this, and what I'm learning listening to you, is that in the next phase of my life, I've got to become a handy dad. Like I've
Yeah.
got to figure out a way to become the dad that just loves his driveway and loves his yard and goes out there and just stands with his hands on his hips and just like, yeah, I need to
So
be that dad. I'm not him. I hate yard work. I
the
hate any
worst.
kind of home renovation project. I can't screw a picture frame into the wall, and I'm 31 years old. Like I got to figure it out at some point in my life how to be a
Yeah,
handy dad.
that's kind of
Yeah, it's
bad.
bad, man. No, it's
It's kind of
bad.
bad.
I got to figure it
So
out.
I definitely take pride in how handy I am, but I also am lucky that I married somebody who's probably more handy than I am. So
Yeah,
she's definitely like my dad loves her more than me now. So it's fine. But like, yeah, every time like we're like building this house and everything, every time he comes over, he's like, yeah, you're gonna need to, these dad talk, right? Like you're gonna need
right,
to, batten down the hatches and
right. The
and
leaky spark
Megan's like,
tube. Yeah, right.
yeah, you're gonna have to fix that leaky spark plug.
Mhm.
And Megan's like, I know how to do that. It's easy,
Right,
no problem. I'm like, you go right ahead. You go right
dude.
ahead. But
Yeah,
I am the dad. Not to get off on tangents, but I am the dad that kind of just stands out and just looks at his yard every morning. Especially during the summer, I'll make myself a cup of coffee, go out there and sit on the porch and just look at my yard and then think about the stuff I'm gonna have to do after work. And that's
yeah.
my summer. Like
That
at
sounds.
this point, especially since I've been here, like when I get home from work, like the first hour and a half is outside. Like we're getting this done, and my yard still looks like shit. Maybe it's not even worth it. Just pull a full Jacob Lane, have all the bamboo and all the leaves and all the whatever else. Just let it go.
There's no talent, man. There's no talent. But
Just give
thankfully,
up.
yeah, thankfully Louisville's defense though, they didn't let it go, and I thought it was really interesting. Like when you look at the statistics for them coming into this game, they're not a team that stands out of having a lot of stars. Like they have Chase Hunter and they have Ian Shefflin, and he is by no means as a big man a star. He is a seventh year, eighth year workhorse, rebound,
Devlin.
get you 14 points, put a shoulder into somebody, make some big plays in the big moment, not make the bad play. That's kind of his MO, right? But for him, he dealt with it seemed like foul. I mean, like not necessarily foul trouble, but it just seemed like ticky tacky fouls early for him. They got him on a screen on bumping into a defender, and you could just tell he was frustrated. Chase Hunter really didn't get much going in rhythm. Now he scored 15 points. I think, a good chunk of those came in the second half of the game, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had eight in the second half. So kind of split half and half, but it never was consistently like he got into a rhythm. It would be a shot here, a shot there. For Clemson, when you take away those options, right? If it's not Shiflin, if it's not Hunter, you don't have a whole lot else. And yes, Jaden Zachary hit 2 threes, and Jake Heidbrader, which is a great last name. I mean, I just got a good chuckle out of it every time. Heidbrader.
He definitely sounds like he should play for Creighton. Like it's
Yes,
such a Creighton
right,
name. I don't.
right, or
Didn't they?
yes,
Well,
exactly.
who had Kalkbrenner? Who did Kalkbrenner play for?
Calc plays for Creighton, yeah. So
Creighton.
you're right
Okay,
on
so
there, yeah.
maybe that's what it is.
And then with Victor Lakin, he was, he's been sick, he's been hurt. He was never really in the game at all in terms of just being a presence. And so for Louisville, man, they really just took these guys out of their rhythm. And while they did find ways to come back, those threes from Zachary and Hydrator were definitely, big time shots for them. But again, it never continued and built to the momentum to where they were able to come back and overtake Louisville and keep building off of it. Once Louisville came back from that deficit early, they really took the control of that game and didn't look back. And there were so many moments where Clemson was like, we're right there. It's like the commercial with the dollar dangling in front of the woman. And it's like,
Gotta be
right,
quicker than that.
right, exactly. Louisville was kind of letting Clemson back into the game, and then it would be a block and a transition dunk, or it would be a putback, or it would be a big block shot, or Javon Hadley would dive on the floor and get a jump ball that would go to a timeout. It was moments that just awoke the crowd and really got Louisville ahead of this and carried them to the end, man. And it was so much fun to watch them, take control of this game. And I said this on the radio show, and I'm curious what your thoughts are as we kind of look now past this game, or we start to kind of have that conversation. The ACC, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a 3 or 4 bid league. I don't see more than that. I think the SEC, you're looking at potentially 10, 11 teams getting in the tournament. Right.
I think Lenardi has 12 right now.
Yeah, I think 12 or 13, man. Right. Yeah. Exactly. You have the number 1, 2, 5, 7, and 10 ranked teams in the country. But the ACC, I think they're only going to get 3 teams in, right? We know Duke, and then I think it's going to be a mix of Louisville, Clemson, SMU, Wake Forest, Pittsburgh. Those are the teams. The rest of the league, in my opinion, is just significantly down. I know Jake mentioned Virginia. I don't see it. You could suggest NC State. They just don't look like they're going to be good enough to have a great year. We obviously saw what they did in the tournament last year, so who knows, right? You can't discount anybody. But I think that this is going to be a 3-bid league. So for Louisville, this stretch, North Carolina, and I didn't even mention North Carolina, right? North Carolina is another one. Sorry, that you throw into the mix as being right there in that 3-bid mix, right? And of course, everyone in the tournament committee wants North Carolina in the tournament. Like that's what they want. But I think Louisville, they've beat North Carolina now. They've beaten Clemson. You go out and you beat Pittsburgh, and then SMU, Wake Forest. And, man, you're really talking about not only just being a top 4 seed in the conference, but potentially being the second best team and then having a pretty decent chance at a good seed in the tournament. However, if you start to slip up and you lose to the Miamis, to the Boston Colleges, to the Stanfords, to the Cals, to the NC States, like some of these middling teams, your resume, because of the weakness of this conference, is going to take twice the hit. And I think that that's the concern. But also I think the big thing is that we're not going to see Duke again, right? But I think Louisville could theoretically, they're not going to, but theoretically could win every game on the rest of their schedule. Sure. Theoretically. Yeah.
If you look across KenPom, little KenPom update. So Louisville's 37th in KenPom now. Jumped as high as 36 before the end of the night on Tuesday, settled in at 37th by Wednesday morning. So the highest they've been in KenPom since Chris Mack was here. And so it's been basically COVID. COVID was happening big time when Louisville was that high in KenPom. They're continuing to work their way back into the right spot in the national echelon. But to your point, we're just talking about bracketology. Joe Lenardi is the last person you want to look at, but if you Google bracketology, what comes up, that's what we're looking at. He has 13 SEC teams in right now, and five ACC teams. So they have
five.
Duke, North Carolina, Pitt, Clemson, Louisville.
Yeah.
So and Louisville.
My point was what I said on the radio of the show, and what I was going to say. It's early, right? So the reason why I think it's going to be 3 and not 5 is the league's going to cannibalize itself. Clemson and Pittsburgh are going to lose to the Miamis, and like these teams are the SMU is gonna trip up, right? We saw SMU get blasted last night by North Carolina. We saw SMU get blasted by Duke. Like it's gonna be like some of the teams rise and then they just completely fall back, right? Like it's just never going to be 6, 7, 8 teams really good at the top. It's just not.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and yeah, right. Like you're starting to see that maybe some of these teams are fraudulent. SMU was way up there, and I know I always refer to KenPom. That's just kind of what our theme is on this show. Jacob, welcome to Starting 502. They're up to 55th now in KenPom, which is kind of stinky. When you look across like an SMU resume, though, coming into the season, we talked about they have a quality roster. You know, they have that Texas money, if you will, and they've really invested in all of their sports, but football
Right.
and basketball especially. But you saw them feast on the lesser teams early in the season, and you started to perceive that as potentially being, you know, a really good squad. When in reality, opposition had a lot to do with it. You know, SMU, when you look across their schedule: Tarleton State, Florida A&M, UNC Greensboro,
Yeah.
Prairie View A&M, Cal Baptist, Washington State, Alabama State. They did kind of have a few good wins against a few good wins. LSU, eh.
Yeah.
They beat Boston College, which is obviously
No.
not a very good ACC
No.
team. Washington State 71st in Ken Palm, but they
Right.
also dropped games to Butler
Yep.
by 11, to Mississippi State by 5, got blown out by Duke and North Carolina back to back. So, to
Yeah.
your point,
Yeah, and to what you're saying is the exact argument that I was making earlier in
mhm,
the week, is that a lot of these teams, Florida State is a great example. They came into the game with Louisville 10-3, but if you look at their schedule, it was the Delaware States and the Hamptons and the Portland States of the world that they had beaten to that point. They had lost to
mhm,
most of the Power Four schools that they had played. The same thing can be said about outside of Clemson. For the most part, and maybe Pitt as well. Pitt has some quality wins, but for the most part in the ACC, teams are coming in with wins that are just not high quality wins with records that are telling a story that they're good teams, when in reality, what we're going to learn is the SMUs, the Wake Forest, and some of the North Carolinas even. Maybe the opposite for North Carolina. They came in with 5 losses to their kind of chunk of their conference schedule. We're going to find out kind of where they fall very quickly. And Louisville has another stretch. I think they have Syracuse on the road, and then they have Virginia again at home, and then I believe they go it's SMU and somebody, I forget, SMU and Wake Forest back to back, or Wake and
yeah,
SMU back to
So
back.
you got, let's see here, you have SMU, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech. Um,
Yeah,
so
so Louisville, out of those first games, like we know Syracuse is not going to be a tournament team. We
yep,
don't think Virginia is going to be a tournament team, but for
yep,
Louisville, right? You come in and you go Florida State, North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, and then say theoretically you beat Pittsburgh, and then you come back and you hopefully take care of business against Syracuse and Virginia again, and then you pick up 2 wins against SMU and Wake Forest. Now you're really talking about I mean, again, Duke is the standard, and you don't play Duke again. But at that point, it would be very clear that Louisville is the second best team in the ACC.
yep. I agree. I agree. Now, here's was my question for you, and I think you've kind of in a roundabout way answered this, but I want to kind of hear it, more directly. If Louisville beats Pittsburgh on the road, do you think that allows them more room if they have a couple of slip ups in those games that they should win?
Yeah, you would hope, right? Because while Louisville does have 5, 6 losses at this point, 5 losses,
Hmm.
they are all against quad one teams. I mean, they
All
are
of them.
all against ranked teams even. So, and up until this weekend, Oklahoma was even still undefeated. So,
Right.
they've been really quality wins. I mean, UK beat Florida. I talked about it on Mike's show. Like UK, I know they lost last night to Georgia. That was kind of one of those
Stinker.
middle of the week SEC games where again this
Hmm.
conference is just going to beat the shit out of each other. Like
Right.
I like that is a conference where if I had to put my money on it right now, the champion in college basketball does not come from the SEC because of how that team just beats themselves up. They're going to go in and half of them are going to drop in weekend 1 because of just being so fatigued. But I think that for Louisville, they can lose 1 or 2, but considering the fact that they already have 5 losses, there is a number it starts to get a point of the number of games that you've lost. And if you have, even if you have 5 losses from the quad one, and you only have,
Mhm.
5 more losses across the others, it's still those 5 are going to be weighted much worse, especially depending on where they fall in the season when the bubble is fluctuating. I mean, this is yes, it's a computer driven model, but it's also AI test. And what have you done for me lately? And if you go and you
Mhm.
lose a stretch of BC, Miami, Stanford, you lose 2 of
Mhm.
3 of those. Okay, now we're back to having a real conversation of Louisville first team out, last four in, like that conversation comes back and you start to see them fall. And that's a real possibility, but man, this team just seems like so locked in right now, and it is still really early. You cannot peak too soon. Too many times teams start to crescendo like this and then just plummet because of an injury, fatigue, etc. And it's there's still a lot of basketball left to be played, and the tournament is still
So
quite a bit of ways.
this is me relearning to love again, right? I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's relearning to embrace your passions and accept that there will be failures and be okay with that.
Right. It feels like it's like not divorcing and marrying the same person over again, but kind of it's like you were separated from
getting
them.
back together after a big break.
Right. Like we were separated. We lived in different houses. We still like were technically together and we tried to make it work, but it was just so like at times it's like this isn't it. It's over. We're never getting back.
I love you so bad.
But there was a moment where we went out at to our kids' soccer banquet, and when one of us had that twinkle in our eye, looking at each other, and the magic was just there again. And so we decided to try it, and here we are. It's working and it's thriving. But at any moment, I feel like they could run off and go with somebody else.
You're so scared they're gonna pull the rug right out from under you, and you're gonna be left brokenhearted at the altar. There you go. We just wrote a movie.
Right. Yeah, right. No, it's like the plot of Reba, I feel like is what that is. We were just a single mom that worked too hard and loved her kids and never stopped.
What a callback. What a callback right there. I hesitate to say that that's the case, but you do look around the country and you start to see that some teams peak a little bit too early and there's a reassessment period, right? I think Tennessee's be in a reassessment period after going undefeated and beating so many quality opponents and then just getting absolutely dog walked last night to against Florida. Kentucky just drops an absolute clunker against Georgia. You saw, we talked about Oklahoma. They went out and just got 50 pieced. There's lots of teams where, especially teams that Louisville's resume kind of depends on their success, that you need them to do well, that they've dropped games by significant margins to lesser opponents recently. So that's something that's interesting to watch. But then you have teams like in Indiana that didn't even look to see if they actually should be ending right about now. But you have a team like Indiana who we were like, when Louisville beat them, everybody was like, well, Indiana's got problems. And then all of a sudden, 12-3, 3-1 conference.
Right. It beat Penn State, who's a very quality team record-wise. I mean, yeah, that's exactly right. Same with West Virginia. I know they lost. I think they lost last night. It was close when I was watching the score, but they beat Kansas. They go in and they beat Kansas without Tucker DeVries and without Armani Hansberry, their top two players. And all of a sudden, to me, I remember specifically listening to the show after the West Virginia game and Jake making the claim that he thought West Virginia was a tournament team. And I'm like, you're freaking high, man. West Virginia is not a tournament team. There's no chance. And sure enough, they're ranked as of this week. They got beat, but they're ranked, right? It's college basketball is just that is what I love about it. Week to week, it is it's almost like, watch this. What's going to happen? I almost predict this now. The number one team is getting ready to become a rotating factory. It's going to be, you get to be number one, you lose Tuesday, you come back, you win Saturday. That's every single year in college basketball. Mm-hmm. It is just so much parity. And you have so many good teams. And what I love about that is I think if you go and you beat Pittsburgh this weekend, you start looking at Louisville and say, okay, maybe they're ranked or close to it. Maybe we're a week ahead. But you start getting in the mix. And in 3 weeks, man, I know that there's been a lot of injuries. And again, there's a lot of basketball that has to be played. But you could be talking about Louisville as a top 15 team in the country. That's not unrealistic based off of how they've played and where we are in college basketball. Again, every night the SEC goes, there's going to be probably 2 ranked teams playing each other. That's just the way the conference goes, right? So the top 25 is going to be changing constantly. Louisville's going to have a chance to continue to play well, right? It's not about the ranking, but have a chance to very quickly pad that resume, get some big wins, man. And the thing about the ACC is there's a lot of bad teams, and you can pad stats pretty quickly here, and you can get to the end of the year. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Duke, they may lose 2 games in conference.
Yeah.
Like if that, they may not
If
even
that.
lose a game, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
at this point,
I mean,
they are so much better than everybody else. But Louisville could freaking lose. I mean, who says Louisville doesn't lose 3 or 4 conference games? And at the
right.
end of the
Oh,
year,
you
they're
never
sitting
know.
here with 9 losses, and that's it.
Right. Yeah. And that's all she wrote. I mean, so you look across, Louisville's schedule in Ken Palm, right? So there's there's like really 3 obvious teams that are not tournament teams: Morehead State, Bellarmine, and Winthrop. Um,
And dude,
Tennessee,
Bellarmine is so bad, man. I don't
Bellarmine.
know what is going on there.
They're 350 in Ken Palm.
They are so
That
bad. I
is
think they're
that is
3 and
stinky.
12 or 3 and 13, and most of their
Yeah.
wins come against teams that are like Midway, Newport College, Spalding. Like they're not beating
Yeah.
D1. I think they beat Miami of Ohio as their only D1 win.
Yeah. That's nuts to me. And, that's not the standard there. I know things will get turned around in short notice, in short order, but not a great look for Louisville's resume, especially after, they lost to Bellarmine, 2 seasons ago to open a Kenny Payne era. So, anyways, so the rest of the schedule, though: Tennessee, Indiana, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Duke, even UTEP, Kentucky, North Carolina, Clemson. Those are all tournament teams or quasi tournament teams, right? Like
Eastern Kentucky too. I think they're going to win
EKU.
the
I'm
A-Sun.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I think EKU is
So
going to win the A-Sun. Right.
so EKU could absolutely be one. I apologize for skipping over them, but yeah, like UTEP's a team that could win their conference. Are we missing anybody else? I think that's it. UTEP and EKU. So
But
really,
yeah, you said all the ranked teams. Right.
this stretch of schedule has been like, we could look back and be like, well, damn. Like, I mean, you just think about like Indiana's 54th in Ken Palm and continuing to rise. West Virginia, 48th. And, they've continued to move up. They were in the hundreds when Louisville played them, when they actually faced off. Oklahoma, like we said, was undefeated. They just took a big drop back to 42nd. Mississippi is 28th. Duke is first. Kentucky is 22nd. But then you get into like, there's games that it really depends on, a lot will still, a lot remains to be seen. A lot will still happen as the season progresses. But like right now, Florida State, according to quadrant system, is considered the same. They value that win as much as they value the Clemson win, which drives me bonkers. Like, yeah, Florida State is okay, but just because it's on the road doesn't mean that separation. Like Clemson is so close to a quad 1 win, and Florida State is the last team in quad 2. So
it's
it's
the
just
AP grading scale, man. You get the rolling 3 points, and you get a 90 to a 99 as an A, instead of the 93 to 100 as an A. Like I'm here for it. I'll take the full 75 because then you can get some of your wins. The ACC is full of teams in the 50s to like 120, right? Like that's where the ACC lives this year. So I mean, you need some of that you need. Like if it was at 50, Louisville's going to have a lot more quad 2 wins just because of that. And for Louisville this year, when you're competing against 13 SEC schools, and if you get to a bubble conversation of, is it Louisville or is it Georgia, right? SEC, and say they go and they beat Tennessee and they beat Kentucky and they have these, but they've lost to East Tennessee State, and they have then you start really comparing resumes of whose wins are tougher, and that's the interesting conversation. So
definitely.
What about Pittsburgh though? Like
I was going to say, let's talk
Saturday.
Pitt. Yeah, let's talk Pitt. So one major thing to consider about Pitt before we even get into players, stylistically, I think this is a pretty solid matchup. So one thing that I always get into is how much does the opponent want to run? How much are they going to want to push the pace? Obviously, stylistically, like Louisville is, very, very far polar opposite of Virginia. Now they back things, slow things down a little bit with all the injuries, but they want to run, they want to, pace and space, they want to go 5 wide, right? Like that's their style of play. I think that this Pitt team really kind of falls into the category of what Louisville has become at this point. So if you go over Louisville's schedule and you just look at the number of offensive possessions for Louisville since the loss to Kentucky. So they had 73 possessions against Kentucky. Then Florida State 68, EKU 69, North Carolina 75, but that was kind of a weird one. Then you drop all the way down to 60 against Virginia, and then 66 against Clemson. When we're looking at the last few games for Pitt, you're looking at 68, 65, 70, 73 against Sam Houston State. So I don't know there. And then 66, 66, and 65 in their last 3 games. So that tells me, based on the way that Louisville, the pace of the games, the way that Louisville has played compares very much to the way that Pitt has played over the last month or so of the season. And so why is that important? Because a lot of what you want to do is dictated by the rhythm and the tempo of the game. The more possessions that this Louisville team can have, I think the better ultimately. So, they're wanting to slow things down. If they can pick it up in other areas and gain extra possessions, I think that's what you want to do. So I think that Pitt compares favorably there. Getting into the roster a little bit, Pitt is very guard heavy. That's kind of been a theme in this era of Pitt basketball. They have a lot of transfers, so Jalen Lowe kind of leads the way. Ish Leggett is his backcourt mate, and then they bring Brandon Cummings and who's the third? Who's the third person? Oh,
Zach
Damian
Austin.
Dunn.
Yeah, Damian Dunn and Zach Austin.
There you go. So they really have 4 or 5 guards that they can run at you. Louisville's done a really good job against teams that are pretty guard heavy so far. So I think that'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting test on the road against a little bit more guard heavy team. But what are some of the names that you're looking at, Jacob, as you're preparing for this Pitt roster?
Yeah, so with this one, this team really goes as Jalen Lowe goes. He is, in my opinion, their best player. And I think that this is a team that has one of the best backcourts in the ACC. I mean, they have mostly by just pure number of guys, but between Jalen Lowe and Braylon Cummings and Zach Austin, and as you mentioned, Damian Dunn, they've got guys that can score, and Lowe really is that guy. He's had 20 plus points in 2 out of their last 3 games, including 27 against California. He's been their leading passer in most games this year. He had a 23-point and 11 assist game against Sam Houston. So this is a guy that can get the ball to his teammates and is able to really know when to go himself and when to give that up and when to trust Ishmael Leggett and when to trust Brandon Cummings. They've been dealing with some injury. They've been without Damian Dunn the last couple of games. He came back and came off the bench this past game against Duke. But they're still trying to kind of find that rhythm, getting him back into the rotation. Zach Austin has missed a couple of games, I believe, this season as well. So they're at full strength in terms of having their full arsenal of guys. But, are they 100% healthy will be something to watch. I think difference in this game is going to be really how Louisville is able to handle the Diaz-Graham twins, who have given them trouble several of the last years. Them and thank goodness he's gone, but Federico, who plays at Texas Tech now. Actually, I mean, he's having a great season, but he has been a thorn in Louisville's side the last couple of years. If Javon Hadley and if James Scott and hopefully you get Noah Waterman back involved in the rebounding game. If Louisville can continue to rebound the way that they have and can keep the Diaz-Graham brothers from getting cleanups around the rim, and same with Cameron Cohen, who is a transfer from Florida State, who has been their best big man by far. He's a really skilled guy, can pass, can shoot, and is a big kind of like defensive lineman built type of big guy, like not fat, but just, I mean, he's huge, man. He's just a brick house. I think that if Louisville can limit them and their impact, that's going to be the difference, because the guards are really, really you're not going to shut down their guards. Someone, Leggett, Cummings, Dunn, or Lowe is going to have a great game. It's just a matter of, can you slow down the bigs and prevent them from the putbacks, the tip ins, getting the offensive rebounds and going to the free throw line, things like that.
Yeah. Guillermo Diaz-Graham. I think a lot of Louisville fans remember the name because while Ken Payne was at Louisville, he was dominant against the Cardinals. I think a lot of players were, but Diaz-Graham kind of sticks out as a dude that he sucked to play against, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's because he has size, he has length. He's not the most mobile by any means, but he can. Both brothers can pop out His brother Jorge plays for this team as well. They're both 6'11", 7 feet tall. They can both shoot the shit out of the ball. Jorge does not play a ton of minutes, but he is 12 for 20 from beyond the arc so far this year. And Guillermo, who is their primary big, has shot 15 for 57 from beyond the arc this year so far. They have a few guys who are not necessarily high volume shooters, but they will take them and make them if you let them. So that'll be something that's interesting to watch. But yeah, I'm interested to see what if Pitt counters Louisville's small ball lineup with two bigs. Like, what do you do then? I'm not sure. I don't know if the game plan is different, if that completely alters your strategy. What's that look like if
So
they're
your
able
starting
to
lineup.
throw?
Your
Yeah,
starting lineup is your best lineup. Then you have
yeah,
Waterman and James Scott out there, right?
yeah.
And you missed the opportunity to say that the Diaz Graham brothers are the best shooting twins since Lyle and Eric Menendez. I mean, that was right there for you, man. That was right
I
there
know,
for
I
you,
know.
and you just
Well,
walked
I was
all over
trying
it.
not. Yeah, I was trying not to make
Best,
I was just trying to
trying not to make a
keep it
murder joke
PG
tonight on the
for the
show. Yeah,
sponsors, but
right.
you know.
But I don't. They're both like twigs, so
hmm
it's not a matter of strength. It's not like they're throwing DeJuan Blair out there at you, right? Like the
Yeah.
old days where you had it to worry about him and some of the big guys. But
No, they quite literally weigh less than I do.
yeah, they're
It's
yes.
not an
It
exaggeration.
amazes me when guys are 6'11", 7 feet, and they weigh the same as me. I'm like, my gosh, I got to get it together at 5'10". It's not a good thing, man. Like
No,
that is the
no.
definition of obesity right there. But I think that this is a game where, again, like I think Pittsburgh is good, and on paper they have a really solid team, but I think Louisville is better, and I think that Chucky Hepburn and the ability to now he's certainly going to have a challenge with these guards, but I think that defensively, if Terrence Edwards and Chucky Hepburn and company continue to play the way that they have, you're going to take away. You're not going to stop them, but you're going to take away some of those guard scoring threats. And then I think at that point for Louisville, they're the better. They're just the better team, and I think that that's what it comes down to.
We talked about this already tonight. We talked about it earlier this week. Pat Kelsey, his teams have been known to, you know, let a star player kind of get his. But I think what they cannot let Jalen Lowe do is just go crazy as far as getting into the lane and distributing for others. If you look at his last 5 games, 12 assists against EKU, 11 assists against Sam Houston State, 8 against Cal, then 5 against Stanford and 4 against Duke. The schools, if you go backwards, go from least a valuable piece of paper to hang on your wall to most valuable. I think Cal, Stanford, Duke.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think that you limit him to the number of assists that he's gaining or the number of opportunities that he's creating for others. You need to be able to keep him out of the lane a little bit. You need to be able to try to circumvent what he brings to the table. I think that's the guy that scares me the most. For whatever reason, I just feel like PK and company are going to have a game plan for Pitt's bigs. I don't know why. I
Yeah. I mean,
feel that in my heart.
if you have that feeling, it's probably because of the impact that Louisville just had against Schifflin from Clemson, because
Mm-hmm.
again, he's a really good player. Clemson's bigs historically, right? The last couple of years, they've had Hunter Tyson and PJ Hall, and that's kind of now Schifflin's rolling. Louisville held them to 10-10. Now 10-10 is still a double-double, and that's a great impact.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I've got to bring this up. Now's the perfect time to talk about
Bring
Ian Schifflin, okay? Presley, I have never in my life been more defeated from gambling only to rebound to a place of just being completely like elevated and feeling like I'm the best gambler in the world. Then this game last night, and the rebound for me and Schifflin late in the game. I texted you and I said, I'm gonna actually, if I can scroll, I probably can't scroll back and find it, but I texted you and I said something to that rebound just sealed a 4-leg parlay for me. Holy crap! Like in the final seconds, I had given up. Schifflin came back in. I just needed one rebound. I'll give you the bet here in a second. One rebound, and in the final 2 minutes, I just am defeated. Louisville's not going to shoot the ball anymore. It's over. And this man, I've never been more thankful for a hardworking, gym rat, sneaky athletic, deceptively quick basketball player than him streaking up the floor, catching that lob, catching that putback and slamming it home for his 10th rebound and 10th
Mm-hmm.
point, because that sealed maybe the bet of the year for me. Okay. Louisville
What
money
was
line.
what was the bet? Yeah.
Louisville money line. Javon Hadley, 10 plus points. Javon Hadley, 7 plus rebounds. Ian Shefflin, 10 plus rebounds. Used the college basketball 4-leg boost, got it up to, I think it was like plus 955.
And then threw
So,
like a couple G's on it, and
yeah.
now
And
you've
now I'm
paid your mortgage for the rest of
retiring.
the year.
Yeah, exactly. My house, my car. I just plowed everyone's driveways up and down the street because I bought a snowblower earlier. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's on, man. No, but honestly, it was the greatest comeback in my gambling history. I think I officially became a degenerate last night off of that
Yeah.
one rebound. I've never
I'm
been
like,
happier for a rebound in my life.
I'm pulling out of the game, evading the cars as I so gracefully do, and getting around all the snow, and get to the stoplight and look at my phone, and I was like, text from Jacob, it's for sure going to be like, what win? Like I'd have text from Ethan and Nick Connor and my brother, and like,
Right,
just looking
right.
down, and it's just like, Jacob, like, just hit a parlay. I'm like, you don't care about the win, do you? You just care
Nope, I
about
care
your
about that
money,
rebound, baby.
you greedy bastard. That's all you care about is Ian Shefflin getting another rebound.
That's
But
right.
no, in all seriousness, Ian Shefflin, as we bring him up, fantastic. He got that for you, but he could not be any more of contrast from what Guillermo Diaz Graham is going to bring to the table. Like Shefflin, if you watch him, yeah, I understand there were some questionable foul calls against him, but my God, my man fouls like he's borderline dirty. I understand he's just a passionate, aggressive player. He's a great rebounder, but my man, he hooks and holds. He's throwing bows that never get called. He's, like he just does whatever needs to be done to get a rebound or get a putback or whatever. And then, of course, when one foul is called, he freaks the heck out.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. That's the
and
Clemson way, man.
um,
Can I tell you how much
I,
I hated and also at the same time got a chuckle out of the quote from Brad Brownell. And this is probably just the Louisville, like I'm on Twitter way too much of me,
mhm,
but the line of for some reason the crowd got to us really irked
I knew
me.
you were
And I
going to say
wanted to be
that.
like, well, for some reason you just kept letting Javon Hadley back all your guards down, Brad. So maybe
Hmm.
that's what it is.
Yeah,
Maybe you didn't figure out how to adjust in the second half when Louisville literally ran the same play 15 times in a row.
yeah.
Maybe it's
Well,
not the crowd. Maybe it is the crowd, but also maybe it's just you're not a very good coach.
to
I know
be
you went to the
fair,
Elite Eight, but
Pat Kelsey, it's not like they were just like dribble down court. Javon Hadley, like, fifth grade, like, Javon, run to the block, buddy. And he goes down there. He's like, ball, ball, ball,
no, no,
ball,
no.
ball. No,
It
they
was
were.
more basic than that, man. He would come out. I think they would bring it up. They would set a screen. He would come on the back on the weak side, get the ball, come back around to the top of the key, and he would take his man one on one. He'd get to the elbow, and then he would back you down. He did the
Hmm.
same thing. I mean, he did it 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row, and he scored on it every time. It was
Hmm.
basic elementary. Brad, stop worrying about the crowd and worry about coaching better.
There were some instances that were very well schemed up. I know that you're
I'm
saying that,
Yeah,
that
just
it's
in that.
elementary,
Yeah.
but this was all by design. And it's because Louisville had to respect other players. So,
Yes,
or
because they
excuse me,
had shooters.
Clemson had to respect other players so much that it opened things up for him. And Clemson did not have any answer for that because they didn't have anybody that could defend Javon Hadley one-on-one. Will that be the case going forward? Probably not. But is there a team? Are there other teams that probably won't be able to defend Abubakar Traore? Probably. Are there other teams that might not be able to defend James Scott? Probably. So I think it's just Javon Hadley. That was his night. And
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
they're just going to
That's not
figure out
going to happen.
what's the secret sauce against Pitt? What's the secret
Yeah,
sauce against Virginia again? Right? Like that's
right.
that's really
Every
how this
game.
game works. That's how this game works. Pat Kelsey's the mad scientist. He's throwing all the different potions into the pot, stirring it up, and this is what's coming out, right? And it really is. It's like watching a football coach on the sideline when you watch Kelsey and their staff. They're always communicating about what the next play call is. They're always drawing stuff up. They're always everything's very methodical, and you see that coming out of timeouts more, most obviously because there's always something that he has by design, right? Like when Louisville was down 6 points, early or midway through the first half. He calls a timeout. They come out of the timeout, run a fantastic set. Rain just missed a three. Go down the floor, force a turnover, come back down, run a set play that leads to a dunk right away. Like
Yeah.
that's Pat Kelsey basketball right there. Everything is called, everything is schemed up well. There's just a good knowledge of what's happening in the game, just clock management, time management, pace management, substitution management. Everything is methodical and meticulous. It's just fantastic and exciting and really a joy to watch. But as we're getting into Pitt, I know we're kind of bouncing back and forth here a little bit. I think that I don't know what Louisville does to necessarily counteract the length of Pitt. So that's what interests me the most. I think, like you said, it's got to be Scott and Waterman a little bit more in this game.
Traore as
But
well.
yeah, Traore. But I'm interested to see what these lineups look like. Do we continue the small ball lineup? Like I thought there was no way in hell that you would again. It worked against Virginia, but I didn't think it would work against Clemson, and it did. Um, I I will. I hesitate to say the same thing, but I actually believe this. I'm not sure that strategy works against Pitt because they can throw 3, 6'11" or 7 foot guys out on the floor at the same time, and they can all play well together and stretch the floor and shoot the rock and do all the things that you want out of those positions. So interested to see what that looks like. Any final thoughts on how Louisville matches up with Pitt? What they should do to kind of give themselves the best chance to win this game? What's it look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for Louisville, you've got to continue to keep the same type of looks and intensity and pressure, keep it moving forward. I think what I mean by that is you need James Scott to continue this double type of play in this game. You need Cater to come out and play more like he did against Virginia, and really be the Energizer Bunny with those 14, 15 minutes in a game where you might get matched up on a guy who is 6'4", or you might get matched up on a guy who's 7 feet, right? So for them, you've got to get positive minutes out of that. I think this game is going to come down to, can Louisville shoot the ball? I think that this is going to be one of those games where if Louisville is shooting 28, 29%, but doing all of the right things everywhere else, they're not going to win the game. I think that they've got to be able to score from deep to be able to keep up with Pitt, to be able to keep up with the scoring of Jalen Lowe and Brandon Cummings and the guys that we've mentioned. They can really score the ball. I think that means this is the game where you see Rain Smith get back and have a 17, 18, 19-point game, 3 or 4 threes. And then, folks, I'm going to just tell you now, if you want to make some money, now this is not financial advice. I want to make sure I preface that. Chucky Hepburn 6+ assists is on the table from DraftKings almost every single game. Go ahead and grab that. Every game. My man has had, I believe, 7 assists in the last 6 or 7 games, and has had at least 6 assists in the last 8 or 9. So he is the only guy who passes the ball well on this team, and I don't mean that literally, but just statistically. That's the bet that I'm going for. And then Javon Hadley, 6 or 7+ rebounds, is a moneymaker every single time. Those two paired together is lights out. Now, listen, I'm DraftKings. You need to look me in the eyes, DraftKings. What are we doing with the Rain Smith threes? We got to get those in there. We got to get James Scott rebounds. I don't know what we're doing and why we're limiting the Louisville player props, but it's pissing me off.
Especially when you see a trend. So Rain Smith, the Clemson game is the first game all season where he didn't hit at least 2 threes. First game. So that was the first thing Megan when it came to the game. She's like, can't believe Rain only hit 1 3. I know, can't believe we just won like that. But yeah, I mean, you'd think they'd hop on a trend like that. Rain Smith, 3+3s, 4+3s. Why Vegas? Why are you not watching Louisville basketball? That's what we want to know. What?
And this is one of those games where Rain Smith, not that their guards are uber aggressive, uber athletic. I mean, they're not standouts by any means, but they're guards that can pressure, guards that can defend. They're gonna pressure Rain Smith. And in some games over the years, you've seen guys like Ryan McMahon, and I don't mean to point out white guys, but just guys who are shooters not be able to stay on the floor because they can't handle the ball that type of way. It's gonna be interesting to see with Rain Smith. If he plays this game, I'm gonna say that the bounce back is real, and it's a 5 or 6 3-pointer game in this game for him.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. Pitt is a solid defensive team, but not necessarily an amazing 3-point defensive team. So
Yeah.
I could see that when you're looking at the statistically Louisville in conference play through 5 conference games. What percentage do you think Louisville shooting in conference play from beyond the arc?
31%.
35.6.
Okay. They're
How about
shooting a little
that?
bit better. It feels like they're not
But
shooting well, to be honest with you.
Florida State is carrying a lot of that weight, where they shot
Yeah.
over 50% from beyond the arc.
Right,
Uh,
right.
but opponents are shooting only 28.4% from beyond the arc in conference play. Louisville is rebounding the ball better than every team except for 2 in the ACC during ACC play.
That's incredible. That's
And
coaching. That is
they're
coaching.
they are assisting on more baskets made than every team except for 2 in ACC play as well. They're also the 3rd highest scoring team in the conference. They also are the 4th highest in points allowed. So put all of it together, it's a winning recipe. Not to mention that Louisville has played, I don't know this for a fact, but I would say nobody's played a tougher conference schedule to this point than Louisville. I mean, having played Duke, North Carolina, Clemson, and then at Florida State,
Yeah.
that's
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 a
a
good
tough
point.
slate starting out. So with all that in mind, I'm really not sure what to think about this Pitt game. I don't know if it's I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my head around how Louisville matches up with this team. They're guard heavy, but they have some long bigs that maybe a little bit more mobile, maybe can pop outside the arc a little bit. I don't know if this is a game where Louisville tries to force the pace or if they try to slow it down. I don't know if this is a game where Louisville can dictate the pace or not. It really, it could go a lot of. I could see it going a lot of different ways. I think this is a
Yeah,
very
I could too.
volatile type of game, right? Interested to see. I think the biggest impact is going to be the crowd
Yeah.
overall, right? I
Yeah.
think that's.
And Louisville hasn't won there since what, 2020, 2021?
Yeah,
So it's been a
I'd
while.
have to do some research there. I'm not
Yeah. I mean,
100% on that,
Louisville's
but
lost their last, I want to say their last 4 against Pitt, their last 3 or 4 against Pitt, or maybe even
mhm.
more than that, maybe 4 or 5. So they have not gone up there and won, I believe, since Chris Mack. And that might have been the Headband Malik game, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that was a road game where Louisville won at the Peterson Event Center. I believe that's where that Pittsburgh plays.
Little live research on Johnny on the spot here. So Louisville has lost 5 straight games against Pitt. The last time they won at Pitt was 2020-21. It
Okay,
was a 64-54 victory. That sounds like
that's
2019-20. I think that would be the win, 73-68 at Pitt. That
no,
sounds like Headband
no,
Malik.
no.
No,
Headband Malik was. I want to say that was. Oh man, I think
uh,
that was Max like less good tenured year. I feel like maybe that was
okay.
even. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, it's been a while since Louisville's won there, and obviously won against Pitt. Pitt's been a tough team to play. And without really being like a top team in the conference, it's been more of just a thorn in the side of Louisville. But I'm
Mhm.
going to say that Louisville sticks on the train that they're on right now of momentum and getting things done that haven't been done in a while or beating good teams. I think Louisville's going to win this one. I think it'll be close, but I think that Louisville is just hotter right now, coming off of this stretch, and I think that they've kind of figured out how the groove of each of their teammates work and how to go and when to kind of hold back. I think they're going to be like pressed here to where I think that they either have a comeback or some adversity to kind of fight through. Maybe it's Chucky Hepburn goes out in the first half with foul trouble and they have to play without their lead guard or something. But I think this is a game where you're going to look at it and you're going to say that was a damn good victory considering the circumstances against a good team. So that's where I'm going with this one. It may be a little bit optimistic and kind of rainbows and sunshines approach, but when you've beaten the last 5 teams the way that you have outside of obviously Eastern Kentucky in the conference, I think that Louisville has just shown you that they're a really tough team that can win at home, they can win on the road, they can win in the Bahamas, they can win in my backyard, they can win down at Iroquois Park, they could win at Newport Aquarium. It doesn't matter where you put Louisville, they can win anywhere. And I think we'll see that this weekend in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Louisville's the better team. I think that they should win this game. Obviously, on the road in conference play, there's no guarantees ever. This is a really quality Pittsburgh squad. They have the ability to, shoot you out of the building. They have the ability to, win in multiple ways. They're a solid defending team. So I think that you have to be on your, high B or A game in order to win this game, but I think Louisville will. They seem to be just a solid shooting team on the road or neutral sites. Like, it almost feels like they shoot better away from home.
Right.
I was
Because
actually trying
Kenny's
to pull
always
some.
tighten the rims, man.
He is, man. I don't know if I tried to pull some stats in the middle here, but didn't really get anything super conclusive. But it just feels like they shoot the ball better on the road. They feel like they've been really locked in on these road trips and neutral site games. So I think that this is a Louisville team that's just built to win in a bunch of different ways, which is not something that we necessarily thought to start the season. But I think that, there's just the continuity is growing with each passing game. And uh, I have a lot of faith in Pat Kelsey to pull this game out. I'm going to go 82-77. That's going to be
All
my
right.
prediction. I think it'll be a close one, back and forth. Both teams lead for a decent amount of time. Then Louisville's able to pull it out in the end. And I think it's on the back of free throw shooting as well. I think that's something that we haven't talked about enough, probably. But Louisville, I mean, like, if you look at the Clemson game, Louisville shot 20 free throws and Clemson shot 5, and Louisville was only fouled 3 more times than Clemson was fouled. So they do a really good job of when they get fouled, it's at the basket or while shooting. They're really good at getting and ones and putbacks and those sorts of things. So I think that could be a deciding factor as well. So until next time, we're going to get out of here. Go Cards, beat Pitt.
Eat shit, Pitt.
Yeah, there, you said it.